Hi, I'm Dr. Greg Mendel, your friendly anatomy professor. We are doing a YouTube video of something that I typically go over in lab. We drew, and I'd like you to draw these on your own notebook, but draw like a front torso person. We had to put his legs over here because the chalkboard's only so tall. We have a lateral view of the head, and this tennis ball looking thing is supposed to represent the inside of the cranium. So we have the anterior cranial fossa, middle and posterior foramen magnum. And so if you draw these four things, we're going to divide this into a 4-part video so it's not so long. You can pick and choose what you want, and we're going to put it in 4 parts. So let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to look at here first, we have a front view of the person. We're going to draw all the arteries and the veins that are different. The reason drawing veins that are different is because all the veins are the same name as artery except for the different ones. So let's go ahead and get started. What we have here is the heart, and coming off the heart we have the aortic arch. The aortic arch comes up and it goes kind of behind the heart and comes down. So we have the aortic arch, you could either call it the thoracic or descending aorta, and so if we label that, we just put thoracic or the descending aorta and the aortic arch. And so we have 3 branches that are coming off of the aortic arch. The very first one is the brachiocephalic trunk on the right. And so the right brachiocephalic trunk, some people call it the brachiocephalic artery. I believe your lab book says trunk. Different authors, different ways. The second branch that's coming off is in the middle here. It's going up on the left, and we have the left common carotid artery. The third branch coming off is going over here under the clavicle, the left subclavian artery. So these are the 3 branches that are coming off of the aortic arch. We have the brachiocephalic artery, which now branches into the right common carotid artery and the right subclavian artery. We're going to go up into the head first on this one. We see 2 more branches coming off of the common carotid. So here we have the left common carotid artery, the right common carotid artery, the right subclavian, and the left subclavian. Why did I put a C? SC. Left subclavian. Sorry. The left subclavian artery. But the other branch here is we have an internal carotid artery and an external carotid artery. The internal carotid artery doesn't actually go that high, but we just drew it that way, and it's going to pierce through a hole called the carotid canal. The carotid canal is now going to go up into the brain area, and we're going to show that on the other model. The external carotid artery is going to, so we have the internal carotid artery and the external carotid artery, and it's going to go, and we're going to show it to you on the other lateral view of the skull. We have 2 more that we'd like to talk about before we move to the arm. Is we have a branch coming off of the subclavian artery called the vertebral artery. So we have the vertebral artery going up. It's going to pass through the vertebral foramen of the cervical spine. Is it possible to grab that model? See if they'd let us use it. We also have the vertebral artery on both sides. So they go up through the cervical vertebra, and it's going to pass through the foramen magnum. So we'll just put like a circle there, and we know that they disappear. It's not actually there, it's in the back with the foramen magnum. So we're now going to go into the arm. And when we go into the arm, we said that we had the left subclavian artery, the right subclavian artery. But what happens here is it changes name. The vessel is not going to be any different, but it is going to change name. So as soon as we have the subclavian no longer under the clavicle, remember that the arteries typically are named for the area which it's closest to. It's going to go here in the armpit area. Now the armpit area is going to be the axilla, the axillary region. And so now we have the right axillary artery. That artery is going to continue down into the arm. And as it continues in the arm, now we're in the brachial region. So now we have the brachial artery. That brachial artery, as we saw coming down, is going to go to about the elbow, and it's going to branch. There's actually more than 2 branches. However, on the test. These are the two main ones that we're asking. So one's going to go on the side by the thumb, and one's going to go on the side by the little finger. Now, the thumb side, as we remember from Anatomy 1, that's the radial, right? So we have the radial bone on top, ulna under. Therefore, this, on the radial bone area, has to be the radial artery, and on the ulnar side, the ulnar artery. Makes sense. We have two arches that are in the palm. We have one here, and then a branch coming off of it going into each finger. Since your hand is thicker on the part closest to the wrist and thinner on the part closest to your fingers, we call that the deep and then the superficial. So we have the deep and superficial palmar arch. So deep palmar arch in the thick part of your hand, superficial palmar arch in the thin part, and in your fingers we have the digital artery. Now, what we do need to talk about is, what if things are different for veins? Is there a subclavian vein? Yes. Axillary vein? Yes. Brachial vein? Yes. Radial, ulnar, all these have a vein. But what we do need to know for sure is, what is different? So when it comes to veins, let's talk about that. First of all, why are there 3 arteries coming off and not 4? Well, we have an inferior vena cava, or superior vena cava, and an inferior vena cava that's going to be there on the heart. So we don't have a aortic vein, it's the superior and inferior vena cava. On the arteries, we have a the brachiocephalic here, but we don't have it on the left. Veins are different. We have a brachiocephalic on both the right and the left. And we do not have a carotid vein, we have a jugular. So we have a jugular on each side. So we have the jugular, the brachiocephalic, and the superior vena cava. Different than arteries. That's why I'm drawing them, because they're different. We know the vena cava comes down, and so does the abdominal aorta. So these veins are different. Also in the arm we have some differences. When you go and you get a blood test, they stick a needle in your arm. If they're hitting a vein, typically it's the one that goes from lateral to medial, superior to inferior in that fashion, like that. And this is called the median cubital vein. So the median cubital vein, we do not have a median cubital artery. Again, that's different. We have a basilic vein, which goes down medially, and a cephalic vein, which is on the lateral aspect. So right out here by your shoulder, we have a very laterally a vein, and medially. So this is the basilic vein and the cephalic vein. Those again are different. We don't have a median cubital artery, we don't have a basilic or cephalic artery, so these are the different ones. Everything above the diaphragm that you need to know for the exam is already listed. Let's talk about the abdominal area, and then we'll cover the legs on the next video. We said that we have a thoracic or descending aorta that comes off the heart. Once it passes through this structure, which is supposed to be your diaphragm in this chalk drawing, it changes names. It's no longer in the thorax, it's in the abdomen. So now we have the abdominal aorta. We still call this the inferior vena cava. The abdominal aorta is going to come down and it's going to pierce into the right and left branches of the common iliac artery. Between the abdominal aorta and the common iliac artery, again named for the ilium, iliac, we have 5 branches that's going to come off the abdominal aorta. So let's just draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things here. So we need to label these. This should be quite easy. What I like to do is divide it in half first, here and here. What we're going to have right here is a set of kidneys. So we've got our little kidneys hanging out here, which my artwork's pretty bad, I'm sorry. But we have our kidneys. So we're going to have the right and left renal arteries, right in the center. Next thing I want you to do is go to the very bottom, draw an artery coming off the left, put a branch coming off here. we would like a blood supply to our guts. Our guts are commonly referred to as the mesentery. So we have a superior and an inferior mesentery artery. This one's on top, superior mesenteric artery, and the inferior mesenteric artery. Next, do you want blood supply to your gonads? I would say you probably do, unless you want them to die. So we're going to give a branch on each side. This is the gonadal artery. That's a bad looking G. Gonadal artery, that's still bad. Anyway, that's the gonadal arteries, right and left. We have one left. You are 4/5 done. The way I like to remember this one is by the term celiac disease. Celiac disease is a disorder where you can't eat gluten, but it helps me remember in the belly, gluten, bad deal, celiac. Why do I remember it that way? Because people are accidentally labeling it cephalic and any other C word. So we have the celiac trunk. That celiac trunk comes out, it's, I don't know, maybe a quarter to a half inch long only, but then immediately we have 3 branches coming off of it. The first branch is going to go to the liver. We have a second branch going to the stomach and a third branch to the spleen. So we need to label these. So we have the hepatic artery, we have the left gastric artery, and we have the splenic artery. All 3 are branches off the celiac trunk. There's one more thing that we commonly tag on the lab practical, and that is the hepatic portal vein, going from their digestive tract up to the liver. So we're going to put it right about there. So we have the hepatic portal vein, again being different. There's a hepatic vein, but this is a hepatic portal vein, which is a different one. If you can draw this over and over, I do not think you'll be surprised on the things and structures you're expected to know. Again, if it's right lying next to the artery and it's blue, call it the vein. But we need to know the ones that are different, and that's why I added the jugular and, the median cubital, the basilic, cephalic, and the vena cavus. I think that's it for this drawing.